Okay guys, this is a how-to of how to change a radiator in a VF SS Commodore. Welcome back to Pokey Mechanical. Let me take you through it. So first of all, we're getting the car up on the hoist. There's going to be a couple of things we need to do. To let the coolant out, we'll actually relieve a little bit of pressure from here. Otherwise, if you don't take that off when you're trying to drain it at the bottom, you'll end up with a vacuum in the coolant system and it'll take a lot longer to drain. So do that first, then get it up in the air and we can drain the coolant. Once you get it in the air, you're going to have to undo a whole heap of screws and bolts here, and that'll get this plastic tray out of the way. So just chuck that down out of the way, and then you can access where the drain is. It's on the driver's side, and there's a little drain there with an Allen key hole in it. So undo that, and then your coolant will start running out. Now I was keeping that because I thought it might have had coolant in it to actually refill with, but that just looks like water to me. Alright, while that's running out, we can start undoing bottom hoses, top hoses, stuff like that. Okay, to make it easier, I'm just going to take the engine cover out of the way, just so it makes it easier to access the hose clamp on the intake. So I'll take the intake out of the way as well, and then that'll give me access to be able to get the fan off and radiator out. Pull that bit out of the way. Now we've got full access to get the radiator out, so let's get the fans, top hose, bottom hose, and then we can take it up. Here's a handy little tool to be able to get hoses off that are really tight or sort of set themselves on. Just by putting that in there, working it around the hose, you can actually get that seal that it develops to sort of break free. And make it easier to actually get your hand in and just twist it off and get it off the engine. Oh, I need two hands. Once you've undone the top brackets and got them out of the way, you move it, tilt the radiator forward, and then you can undo these two bolts, and that gets rid of the air conditioning cooler from holding onto the radiator. And the same needs to be undone at the bottom of the radiator. You'll have one bolt just here. That needs to be undone, so that's holding the bottom of the air conditioning, and there's another one on the other side that I've already taken out that goes in there. Aircon line's undone. You should be able to manhandle the radiator out. Just got this tank under this side, aircon, then getting held on with. Pull the whole lot out with the fans on, then we can swap that over onto the new radiator when it's going in. Cheers. One handy tool I use in the workshop is this Toledo tool, and it is a hose clamp for the hose clamp removing tool for spring clamps such as this one. What you do is basically just hook that onto there. When you squeeze this part of the handle, that pulls the wire in the housing and clamps that hose clamp to the point that it'll just do that. It'll lock in the handle here when you squeeze it enough, enabling you to maneuver the clamp or the hose all together off out of the way, and no risk of it letting go because it's already locked in there. Once you've got that off, to get it off, you just basically squeeze, release, and then that just safely keeps your spring clamp on your hose. Really good little tool, and a lot easier than using the multi-grips, but multi-grips will work if you don't have one of these. Go. Okay, I've already got the two top 10mm bolts undone. That will allow you to just basically pick it up off this clamp there, slide it out of the bottom holders at the bottom of the radiator, and then have your other radiator set up to transfer this straight across. That'll clip in at the bottom, and then that goes in onto that clip right there. Then just put your two 10mm back in. So I'm just going to use the same tool again to clamp the hose down, and then yeah, that just basically will go into position. Once we get in the car, I can actually adjust that to wherever I want, but I'll just get it on there to make it easy to just lower in the car with the hoses on. Especially for the bottom one. The bottom one can be a bit painful to do while it's in the car, so we'll do this while it's here. Out on the floor, makes it a lot easier to work with. Once you get that in the right spot, it does. Follow me. Okay, don't forget to change over your overflow bottle hose.
It's facing out the back, this one?
Yep. Only because when that's in there, and if you forget to put it on, it's an absolute pain in the bum to get it in the right spot once it's been installed incorrectly. Now the new one should just nicely drop straight in. Just be very mindful down the gap there, watch straight down between the aircon and the radiator not to get the bolting mount points in the way to or scraping the actual aircon condenser on the way down. Now that looks like it's nearly into position.
Coming at you.
So I've just got the two 10mm here, just finger tight at the top. I'm going to raise it up and have a look at the ones underneath, make sure they're lining up. And the other thing we can do while we're here is just put these two hoses on. I'm not going to put the clamps on just yet because I want to make sure the hoses are in the right orientation. One thing that is concerning me though, just come around this side, Brad, so you can see that hose. Look how flat that is. It's not round. Bit of an issue there with this. Has had low coolant at some point, and when it's cooled down, I reckon we've got an issue with the actual radiator cap not allowing coolant to suck back in from the overflow after it's cooled down. So that may be an issue that needs to be replaced as well.
Sand it.
Okay, so what we've got is this bottom one here. That's already lined up because we've already got the top one bolted in. So just finger tight again, so then you've basically got room to shift things around when it comes to getting the final one in before tightening them all up. So a little bit of a tight spot to see in there, but
lots of plastic in your way.
But there and there, we'll tighten them up with the ratchet. They don't need to be super tight, they're only into really small thin nuts. And they're only a thin bolt too. Okay, so from this side there's a hole in through the side of the K-frame that I can actually see the radiator hose going up through the engine. I'm just inspecting that to make sure when I've put the hose on down on the ground that it's not getting a twist in it and kinking the hose and restricting any flow. But how that's going through there and straight onto the engine is looking perfect. So that's good to go. So you can see that going through up to where it joins where the hose clamp is up there. There's no kinks or twists that it shouldn't have. Yep.
See how easy that makes it.
Using that little magic tool again, can get it perfectly lined up. There's even the yellow mark on this side where the factory mark is. So you can make sure you've got the hose clamp in the right spot. Let it off the release with two hands and then you can hold it square and get it right off. Perfect.
Not sponsored by Toledo either, but if they want to.
Yeah, feel free. or any other brand want to send us stuff, more than happy.
Yeah,
to
if yours is better than the Toledo one, by all means, send one.
More than happy to test them out. Got it down on the ground. We can do the top AC bracket up. Make sure that's firm. Doesn't have to be super tight. You don't want to strip the tiny little 6mm thread. Once that's done, then you can just grab your mounting bracket there. That can clip back. Mounting bracket there. Clip them in, and then we just get the two 10mm. One there. One there. We'll do them up. Cool. Don't forget to plug your fan back in. Very, very important part of the procedure. If you don't do that, this engine definitely will overheat and cook itself. Bleeder hose. That basically is one of the top points inside the engine for the coolant to come back to the top of the radiator to make sure you get all the air out of the actual system when you're filling it back up. Now we've just got this hose here, so that just clips into these points in the actual radiator.
Follow the path.
Follow the track along.
Down low.
Yep, so that down under there. Clips down to there, clips into there, and then straight onto your top point on your radiator. Now last bit is your air intake to go in.
Be gentle with your mess airflow sensor.
Yep.
Almost.
That's tight. Loosen that off a little bit more, it may be the reason. Don't be scared to spit on it and get it in.
Add a bit of mechanics lube. Oh look, it made the difference.
It'll save your marriage too.
Jiggle and a wiggle to line up. Get all your clamps, you don't want anything, any dirty
Plug your
air getting
airflow
in there.
meter back in, make sure you plug that back in for your breather, otherwise it won't run right. And now we're good to go with filling up your coolant. Okay, these are a really handy little tool to have at home as well, even if you don't have a mechanic workshop like ours. Just assists with being able to fill your coolant and make sure that you get a level right up above your actual coolant level in your engine to get it really full, and then you can run your engine with that on and it gets any air bubbles out. Your water pump can actually work and push any coolant right through. Make sure you've got your heater tap on when you're doing it, and that makes sure that you've got all the coolant system filled with coolant, not any air bubbles at all.
Go.
Alright, so OEM for these Holden VF V8s is a red coolant, so we're using Penrite long life red coolant. And yeah, using the funnel, you can see that it's just easy. Just pour it in really fast, and to stop it splashing around all over the engine, we just put the little cover on and let it do its thing. Let it go down, then we'll pour a bit more in and make another mix up and keep going. Okay, now that we've got that filled up and it's above all the rest of the coolant system, I've opened the heater tap in the car and just started up and basically just let it run. To make sure that it just pumps anything through. We wait for the thermostat to open and we'll just get all the little bubbles out of there, and eventually this will just all go into it. One thing to just look out for is make sure that any of the hoses that you've taken off the engine or off the radiator aren't leaking at any of the joints. And just constantly keep an eye on that while you take it through its first heat cycle, and also after a couple of days it's good reminder just to check that your fluid level is still at the top of your radiator when it's cold. When I've filled this up, I've just put this little white paint mark there, so I know that the bubbles coming up aren't a head gasket issue. I know that it's actually coolant going into the system because it's dropping constantly below the line that it was at where that dot is. One thing you will need for this job is torque spits to be able to get these underbody trays out of the vehicle. Never in my life of being a mechanic have I got under a car and gone, oh, thank God it's got torque spit screws in it. Why were these ever invented? They're just horrible, horrible pieces of bloody things we have to deal with in this job. Okay, then once that is all done underneath, you can just put your engine cover back on and that's ready to shut the bonnet and go. I'm not going to do that because I've actually got rocker covers gaskets to change in this one as well. So stay tuned. On the next video will be how to replace the rocker cover gaskets in your Holden V8. So this is pretty much the same across all the LS models, I believe. I don't think there's much difference with the rocker cover gaskets on these to what there is with LS1s, LS2s, LS3s. So yeah, next video will be doing those. Don't forget guys, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. What we do here at Pokey Mechanical is a lot of general service and maintenance, and I try and do little sort of how-to videos on just different stuff that I know people can sort of manage and do at home. But also what we have in the build is a couple of other projects going on. We've got an XY panel van that hasn't started yet. We've got my drift car that'll be getting a engine put in the next 2 weeks. It's going to start, and yeah, a whole heap of other bits and pieces. So if you're interested in cars and interested in seeing where this channel goes, make sure you hit the subscribe button, follow along, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers guys, thanks very much, hope you enjoyed the tutorial.